biggest change from console to PC was really just the lighting effects. Like, it really wasn't the resolution, but like, you know, running Battlefield 3 and then getting a lot extra when it came to lighting or things like that. Or Bioshock Infinite, which just looks gorgeous on PC.
Oh, it looks great.
It is unbelievable.
I've played through probably the first couple hours of it, and it looks so much better than on console.
I know, and it really is. It's not like, well, and it turns out you've been playing everything in 720p.
Yeah, playing everything in native 720. Like,
and
oh
so
man.
what it really is it's the stinking. It's the actual effects behind it that are better on PC because you're able to enable a bit more. But I also think that in this huge contest, we keep forgetting that, you know, some of the best looking games don't actually take that much to play or aren't even that complicated. Like, one of the best looking games out there is Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. That was on the GameCube. I would still call it one of the best ones out there, and now it's on the Wii U, and it's by no stretch of imagination complex or hard to run. And I think we keep sitting here going, oh yeah, resolution, but I would argue that the most important thing isn't even like how accurate your lighting is, it's about having a style. Like Okami, way back on PS2, I think that thing had an ink brush style. Or Borderlands 2 with a cell shaded, because Borderlands 2 on PC really doesn't have all that much.
No,
it's
it
pretty
really
basic.
doesn't. It's
But what sets it apart is its cell-shaded style, and so I would argue that that's way more important anyway.
Because
like, I would say Super Mario Galaxy was one of the best-looking games out there of last gen. It was amazing.
Yeah, and like what it is for me, it's more about the atmosphere in game, not so much like how good the graphics are. Is if I feel like, you know, it works in the world, and like one of the ways I guess you can get around
that's what Fallout 3. That's what Fallout nailed.
Yeah, and it's because like even like New Vegas doesn't have great graphics. It's the same as Fallout 3.
It's ugly as hell.
It's really ugly, but it's such a great environment.
You can't help but be sucked into it.
And like I just get playing it, I'm just like, oh, you know, man, I just gotta go. Like, I just got this new gun. I really want to go test it out on some fiends.
Yeah, I mean they all have their issues. That one, the only thing that jars you out of it is dying, which is probably good. Like, the fact that that's the only way you really quit playing is when you die and lose progress.
And like even then, I kind of know like when I'm gonna die. And...
Oh yeah, you know when you're screwed. One of the worst ones was I saved. Like I hadn't saved for like an hour, and I came out of a metro. It auto saved, and I was confronted by 2 Talon Company mercs with like 10 health.
Oh yeah, no. Oh, I hate that so much.
I spent like a
so bad
half hour figuring out what I had to do to get out of that situation.
How can I not die?
I mean, that is my biggest problem with that series in general. Like, don't think Skyrim gets off on it either, because Skyrim is just as bad.
Oh, I'd say Skyrim is almost worse, because like in Fallout, I'll remember to save. But like whenever I play Skyrim, I just get so wrapped up and just like.
I eventually got obsessive about it.
Oh
I'd just
man!
Be walking, it was like, save time, escape, save, then move forward.
Yeah, but like the thing is with Skyrim, like I'll just install a mod and I'll be like, I'm running around as a freaking Teletubby with a machine gun, like. And then I'll do that for like 2 hours, and like I'll be doing the quest lines and everything. You know, I'll be doing like a whole bunch of side quests, and I'll just accidentally like, you know, forget to save, and then I'll auto save in a really bad place, and I'm just like, no, damn it.
Yeah, I think that is honestly one of the things I don't know that any game has gotten right, are checkpoints.
Oh, it's
like,
so hard.
I think there's something to be said for just letting the person pick up right from where they died.
Yeah, like
because I mean, like. I know it's a little unrealistic, and I think the hesitation is like, well, then what's the challenge if you just resurrect instantly? It's like, well, but nobody likes backtracking.
See, I like what Borderlands does.
There are many times where just dying on something makes me just quit.
See, because like
the idea of having to deal with it again is just the worst thing in the world, and I don't want to do that.
And see,
like it happens to me, Grand Theft Auto. Fallout. I mean. Definitely Skyrim. I mean, like, just any of them.
Yeah.
Once I've died and and it puts me back just the slight bit too far in the mission, I'm done playing it because I can't put up with that. I just won't do it.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
But like the thing that I think did it well is like Borderlands 2. Like I really like its save system,
Well, yeah,
like
'cause
especially
it doesn't really
reset.
Occasionally it'll put you back a little bit too far,
Yeah.
but in multiplayer, okay, Borderlands 2 is not nearly as good in single player because some of the characters are spec'd for multiplayer, and you run into issues with. I think the worst is like it's some of the bosses. Like I know playing them as a sniper, I just got like wrecked, and then you would die, have less ammo, and then have to go back and start the battle, and you just ended up in this losing cycle. At least with multiplayer, no amount of strengthening the enemies can take away the advantage that is being able to respawn and not lose progress on a boss.
Oh, and that's the thing that like I like that like because in single player, like if you're just playing by yourself, it will reset everybody's health, but it won't reset like the drops and like all the other stuff.
Yeah.
Which I think is pretty neat. But like what I love is in multiplayer for it, it doesn't like as long as you have like if all of you die at once, then it will reset like the boss's health and stuff. But as long as one of you can hide and stay alive.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Is that's what really broke it in single player for me was that you would die and then you would lose the progress, which isn't like I know that's just how the game was built, but that's the only that's the main reason you kind of have to play it in multiplayer mode, just because it kind of really breaks it.
And that was one of the biggest things is there was actually a mod out for it for a long time that just ported that over. So even if you died in single player mode, you wouldn't. I mean, like if you like on the actual bosses, like Pyro Beat and the bosses that once you die you respawn, but you respawn out of the combat area. Like,
yeah, I gotcha.
Everything but those, like but so for like Flint and stuff, that first battle, even in single player, if you died, enemies would only recover like 3/4 of their health.
Yeah, like I'm fine with them recovering some. It's just the point of the respawning is to get another try.
Yeah.
But you're already at a disadvantage because you don't regen all your ammo, and that's honestly. Still, I think they did much better on the second one, but it's a bit bullet spongy.
Oh yeah,
like, it's kind of bad for that.
You really do have to know what you're spec'd for a lot more.
Yeah,
because like
I don't know.
I mean, it doesn't really make that much of a difference because like if I spec myself as say a soldier or the commando, to go for launcher and assault rifle damage, I can still use pistols and shotties just fine. And like the Gunzerker is great with pistols, like dueling the Grog Nozzle and like the Herald or something is super effective, especially like with money shot. If you can get a really low clip Herald, you can keep that reload buff going. It is super powerful, but like you can still like dueling with like the Norfleets, for example, which is like the most powerful launcher and weapon in the game, is still super fun, and you can do it relatively successfully. I mean, if you're not wearing like the B shield, I have downed myself before, which is really annoying.
Well, here's the thing. My one other kind of, I wouldn't call it a big complaint, but at least a complaint I have with that is just I don't actually like the amount of weapons they have. Like, it sounds like an odd complaint, like, oh, what's the problem with more weapons? But I think if you're gonna have that many weapons, you've either got to give me unlimited inventory or slim down the amount of weapons, because sometimes it's not clear, even with the amount of stats they have, whether or not it's going to be something good. Because it's very easy to look at the stats and go, oh yeah, this is amazing, then you pull it up and it's got like the worst scope in existence or something like that.
Oh yeah, but that's also kind of the beauty of it, is it's a little bit balancing.
Well, but the problem is it has weapon variety, but it has weapon variety through terrible weapons.
Oh yeah.
And that's my problem, is that most of the weapons in Borderlands are just junk. And that's not variety to me. That's just a waste. Like, it's not real variety when you're just gonna churn out a bunch of white level weapons that are crap.
Oh,
Like, I want weapon variety in that they're all either unique and interesting or, they're all kind of useful, rather than getting like 1,000 relatively shitty weapons.
Oh yeah, and that's like the thing that I looked at one of my characters. Like, I have a level 72 Gunzerker, and I've looked at it and I've only picked up like 30 white level weapons with it.
Yeah, because you just don't need them. Like white level weapons are just awful because they're not like the higher level weapons aren't that uncommon, and it's like that's why I don't know if this like the rating system for guns really works for Borderlands. I don't know that they really need that because what is the purpose in having the white level common? It's like I don't see the purpose in providing weapons that are useless.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like, the other thing that really bugs me is I have spent hours farming for guns and not gotten...
And you just don't get them.
Yeah, and you just don't get them. And
well,
then...
I mean, I can kind of make an argument for that because you could argue that's part of the fun in Borderlands.
And yeah, especially
for
for like the North fleets and stuff, because they are kind of, you know, like game breaking. You know, once you do that, like with the Gunzerker, regenerating the ammo, and like if you have the Beyond with the Logan's gun, you know, it really...
Well, and I also think that's sort of the beauty in those too, is that the randomness does keep you going, but at the same time, I think they just... I don't know. To say that they've got, to say that, oh yeah, we've got millions of unique weapons is just kind of a blatant lie. Because, I mean, the big thing is they're also not really all that unique either, because they're all basically the same. And that's what I mean, you always hear, oh, Borderlands has got millions of weapons, but it really isn't. It's more of a part system.
Yeah, it's got lots of combinations.
Okay, you've got like 5 classes of the same gun, and then there's like, you know, but really it's all about putting the parts together differently, which is all right. It's just I don't think that they did that much interesting with the random parts. It's like I think what they really should have gone with is really embrace the interesting nature of the weapons, because a lot of them behave perfectly normally. The fun ones are the ones that don't. And so I think they should have had that be more of a hallmark of the rarer weapons. Make them all useful, but make the rare ones fun.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that's what frustrated me about it. Is it's like, oh yeah, in every promotional material ever, it's like, oh yeah, we've got like 3 times the amount of guns from Borderlands 1, which had like 2 million weapons. And they said it's so much that we can't even really calculate it. And then you're like, no, they're really not unique.
It's every single one
same
is
gun with
every single one is the
variation.
greasy rifle with a different scope on it.
Yeah. And that to me, it just feels a little deceptive. And it's like, you hear a lot about that for Borderlands. And the other issue I have with Borderlands is that the vending machines, for the most part, are completely useless.
Oh, yep. Completely
the only one you need
useless.
is the ammo and the health.
Yep.
And that's it just annoys me because you have no good way of getting weapons other than the random stuff. Which, I mean, some might say that's a good thing. I find it annoying because I feel like it's just something that should have, you know, some other way of getting weapons. Like, you could argue that, yeah, sometimes they sell good weapons, but they're never great. And I mean, I'm not saying that you should always be able to... You shouldn't be able to get the best weapons by buying them. Maybe like 1 or 2, but they should be massively expensive. Because everyone knows how hard it is to maintain money in Borderlands 2.
Oh,
which
it
is another complaint that we're going to get to in a minute, because that one's bad.
Oh, man, it is. Oh,
But the issue is in, like, you know, I just think it's a little stupid that reliably, you can only get good weapons through random.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even like a question of, will I get a better weapon if I go random? It's no. If I just go and kill a boss or wait like 10 minutes and kill an enemy that's relatively powerful, I'll have a better weapon than I could buy. And I mean, the golden keys, I guess, kind of serves to fix that somewhat, but it's still not...
And they are quite generous with the golden keys.
Well, I think that's good. It's just the problem with the golden keys is that, okay, it's a little stupid, but I always think about games in context of how they're going to change once the servers are offline.
Yeah.
And Borderlands 2, it's like, the golden key system is just done.
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
You know, if it goes off, if the servers ever go offline, I mean, the game is just, you know, you can't do anything with them. Yeah. And I mean, that's what scares me. Is like, that's why I don't necessarily like dedicated servers all the time. Like, a lot of people swear by them, but the problem with dedicated is that eventually servers go down. Like, you're looking at that with GameSpy shutting down. Soon Games for Windows Live.
Like,
Games for Windows Live is shutting down, and we don't know what's going to happen.
Oh yeah,
like,
and I'm so sad that the Battlefield, not the Battlefront 2 servers shut down.
Yeah,
it was
I think you
That
can
was
set
so
that up.
fun.
I think you can do direct connection with that, so it's not too big
Yeah,
of a deal.
and that's you can still LAN it. The same with
But-
Borderlands.
But I mean, that's the danger. Is okay. Like Borderlands is all direct connect, which is
Yeah,
great.
which is
But-
fantastic.
Well, I mean, there are other issues that accompany it, like hacking. But then again, Borderlands 2 has embraced it because it's co-op.
Yeah.
But the ones that really get me are things like Battlefield. Like, especially the new ones. Like, Bad Company 2 isn't going to die, at least for a while, because it's a fan favorite and you can just buy your own custom server and run it. But, like, Battlefield 3, you've got a bigger issue. Like, fans could maintain the server, but the entire game is run through a web browser. Like,
Yeah.
even single player, which I'm surprised people, like, most people were annoyed with it because the server was unreliable, and they're like, yeah, this is stupid. Why wouldn't you just have a in-game launcher? I was annoyed with it because I'm like, well, what's going to happen in the next, like, maybe even, like, it could happen in a couple years, not even, like, that far out in the future, because you've got yearly releases of Battlefield now, and EA doesn't have any supported servers for Bad Company 2. How much longer do you think they're going to keep Bad Company or Battlefield 3 servers? And then also, how long are you going to keep the Battlefield 3 battle log running? It's like eventually it's going to end.
Yeah.
And then although
And-
I know Battlefield 3's campaign wasn't anything to, I guess, play really. It was okay. At the same
Yeah.
time, it's like I paid money for this game and it's going to have an expiration date because it's tied to a company server. And
Yeah.
servers cost money to maintain.
And like that's my question with all these new like Titanfall online only. You know,
Well,
at
see,
what
I mean,
point are they going to
but
cut
that's
their
kind of
losses
a-
and kill the
that's kind of an
servers?
that's for me. I would hope for things like that, it would be more of a free update kind of thing to keep it
Yeah,
running.
yeah.
But it doesn't appear like they're doing that. But then again, if you're buying online only, you're kind of accepting that risk.
Yep. And that's
And
my problem is
obviously,
I
like,
think
you're not going to play the online only forever, but like,
Yeah.
you know, Bungie updated the original Halo to keep working after GameSpy shut down, but you can't expect companies to do this. And the problem with Battlefield 3 is it is tied to a server. It
Oh,
can't
yeah.
be played without a server. And you have to wonder this for any of these always online DRMs. It's like, well, at some point that server is going to have to be turned off. And are they just
Yeah.
going to set it up so then it can be played offline without having to activate? Or, you know, like, let's say they go out like THQ and they're just gone.
Yeah.
One day they're just gone.
oh that would
What
oh,
happens then?
Such
like, I wonder how
such
many
anger.
THQ games.
Such
I wonder
anger.
How many THQ games just don't work anymore because nobody's bothering to maintain it and they're done. Like, what if EA just shut down? I mean, would SimCity no longer function online ever? I mean, would Battlefield 3 and 4 no longer even be able? Would you not even be able to play the single player? And it's like I tend to think of games in an archive sense, and it really annoys me for stuff like that, especially like.
Oh,
Games
yeah.
for Windows Live annoys me because there's DLC you can only get through there,
Yeah.
and it's shutting down. Or the one that was really bad, it wasn't Games for Windows. I'm trying to think of what it was. There's one that really annoyed the crap out of me for archiving. But I mean, it's just one of those what happens when these go down, because you can sit there and go, oh well, you shouldn't worry about that. It's never going to happen. It might. And I think that there's something to be said for archiving this content because we have the resources, and as storage gets cheaper, it's not hard.
Oh yeah, and it's like
And I mean, like, this is something that we may at some point in time want to come back to and look at. I mean, like, we're already in danger of losing arcade cabinets because nobody's bothered to maintain them. I mean,
yeah.
like, the same thing happened with film. Is like, they estimate 80% of the silent era of film is just gone. Like, we'll never know what it is because studio executives, after it made its money, they just kind of dumped it in a warehouse like, it's not making any more money, not worth maintaining. And so a large portion of the silent era is just gone. And even things as modern as the 70s, like The Godfather, the original
Yeah.
Godfather movie, the original footage for it was so poorly maintained, like it had been used so much to make copies, it was like everything was in blue tint. It was blue tinted everything.
Oh,
the
yeah.
whole movie. The film was basically ruined. And you have to think, if that's what happened with film, and film is way more established than games, I mean, what are we doing now to archive? Because you can't deny, like, what about the original Legend of Zelda? Is anyone going out there preserving that? Or NESs to make sure it can play? I mean, that's kind of what I sit here and wonder about, is like, I'm sorry, I mean, I may want to go back to these games someday, and I'd like them to function. You know?
oh yeah.
I mean, if I paid the money for it, I would expect the single-player parts to function, maybe not multiplayer. And I don't know.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
and that's,
it's
I mean,
just
like,
that always gets
I'm
me
like,
about
alright,
it.
you're gonna cut your losses on multiplayer. You know, that's cool. I get it. It's an
Yeah, well, of
economic
course.
decision. But like, don't disable the single player. Like, at least allow
No,
that
and
to still work.
that's what scares me about what's happening with always online DRM and especially Battlefield, which I don't think people were as annoyed as they should have been because
Oh yeah.
that was all through a launcher, and like there was nothing you could do about that if you were on PC. You had to run it through their launcher.
Yep.
And I mean, you're seeing a lot more of these clients where you rely on it. I mean, say what you will about Steam. What happens if Steam goes down? You know?
Oh yeah. If you know
Although
what.
I suspect they'll be pretty generous and warn you keep the servers up so you can download and archive all your games.
Yeah.
But it's like, do my purchases transfer? I mean, that's what's a little.
That's
shaky
why
about
you
it.
save the CD keys.
Yeah, and I mean, it's. I don't know. I mean, I think digital is good. It's just there really isn't all that much that, I guess, protects it, or we haven't really thought that far in the future. It seems like to me. It seems like we've basically gone, yeah, digital is awesome, and then we just quit there. Or, hey, if we do always online DRM, it's harder to pirate, and then you're like, well, what happens when I want to play it 20 years down the line?
But when EA, in 2 years, when you go, okay, there's only 50,000 people playing Titanfall, and there's, 200,000 people that want to play this game, let's just knock off those servers and convert them, because, we'll get 200,000 more customers. It'll be
blame them, though, Like,
I mean, yeah, and
sense.
that's the point of it, is it makes sense, and it's an economic decision, but there's nothing being done, really, it seems like, to safeguard against it, or put aside funds now to protect for the games later.
Well, I mean, like Library of Congress preserves film.
Yeah.
I think that should be extended to games, because games are much easier to preserve. It's
Oh, yeah.
basically just a storage bay.
Like, especially cartridges. Like, I've been to friends' houses, popped in, an old NES cartridge that's been, it's been through 4 moves, been in storage, like, had stuff spilled on it, been have the case cracked, and it still works. And it's like, okay.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I personally think, like, those would be a bit harder because storage is bigger, but, like,
yeah.
You're thinking, like, the content, like, just a game, like games, you just buy a server array.
Yeah.
Of several terabytes to start, just set up a server bank. It'd be so much cheaper than anything else. And like you've got Sony with their tape magnetic tape experiment.
Oh yeah.
It's like that right there. You could probably store basically the entire library of Steam right there.
Yeah.
Just in that magnetic tape.
And what's great about that is it's just you're not trying to recall it.
No,
yeah.
You just need it to be saved so you could copy it to some third party thing and run it. It's not like you need to be running
go cut open that door on the roof.
I don't know. It's just that's something I think about, and I don't think that it's a concern for many people. Is how do you archive? Especially the internet too. Like we're not archiving any of the internet. People say the internet is the best archive, but here's the thing: things disappear off the internet all the time.
Oh
we
yeah,
just
and
don't assign anything to it.
It's all like private. When people say it's archived, it's private archives.
Well,
like, people
and
just
you look at
shit.
it like how many times have you gone to a forum and seen image not found or something like that?
Oh, so many times, and it's because I mean, like you can take it off there, and it is never truly gone because there's always somebody that.
Well, there's always some form of it, but there was somebody who went through and backed up all of GeoCities, and they have a Tumblr page where every day they post a GeoCity thing. It's like I don't know.
And but something that you can do is actually.
I just think there's inherent value in archiving these things because we have the ability to do this, and we've never had this ability in history. And I mean, I'm not saying everything is important here, but who knows what value this data might have later on. I mean, we haven't gotten to, I don't know. It's just kind of frustrating.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say give it time, and people are gonna, like, we'll start archiving this stuff.
Put your hands up. Eat that dirt.
Okay, hold on. I'm finding someone who's doing it.
But like that's the thing that there's no I imagine somebody somewhere does it's like, all right, I'll spend like $1,000 to get like 100 or 150 terabytes, worth of storage and just start downloading, my favorite websites. And, I imagine people have done it with, like Wikipedia and like like they just go through and, because I wouldn't imagine it'd be that hard, like, because if you just download the text files, like especially if you compress it, I mean, I'd imagine probably, I'd bet less than 200 gigabytes is all of the data.
Oh yeah.
Like, easily, probably.
I mean, it's just, to me, I've always thought it's something that's worth doing, but, I mean, hey, nobody has done it yet.
And I imagine that there's parts of it that have been done.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, there's a person who did GeoCities and stuff. It's like, yeah, there's definitely been efforts made, but I don't know. I just think that it's still above the scale of most people. And if you're thinking, like, I think you'd be hard-pressed to say that games are not culturally significant now.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
and
they have been for a while.
They
because
definitely,
they're overtaking movies and
oh yeah,
if I remember
like,
right.
and especially if you look at YouTube trending, just what's been popular. Like now,
it's all gaming.
Now gaming is really kind of what YouTube is. Like, look at Twitch, how much money flows through there.
Oh,
like,
the whole, like, Twitch was founded basically for live streaming games. Like, that was it.
Yeah, and what was it, like, YouTube paid, or Google paid half a billion dollars for them?
Yeah.
To buy out Twitch?
Well, I don't know if they've actually picked up
Like,
Twitch
yeah,
or if they're thinking about it.
officially.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe
Because
not.
I mean, if they do, I think it would be good if they could bring a lot of, I think it could unify it. It could be good or bad. It could go either way.
Well,
I
I think the problem, Google is, okay, I like Google, but a lot of people are scared by them, and I think rightfully so.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Because
I'm more
I've
scared
heard
of
an argument
Facebook,
recently-
especially with this new, like,
Well, okay.
emotional study thing.
Is it really?
Oh, you didn't hear about that? Okay, so yeah, pretty much so for the past, I forget the time period, Facebook has been intentionally modifying the news feeds of 700,000 users to see if,
Okay.
if they artificially put in happy things, the person will be, happier in their posts and viewings and stuff.
Oh,
and
of course.
And they've, no remorse, just like, yeah, we did it, which, like, we don't care,
Well, no, I mean, I
like,
think
what
it's
you gonna do?
interesting information. It's just we have the big problem now is we really don't have any laws that deal with personal data in the internet. Like, we have
Oh, yeah.
no safeguards at all. At least in the U.S. The EU is trying.
Yeah.
Although they're doing some stuff that is probably misguided, like the right to be forgotten thing.
Yeah.
The issue there is that where does that right end?
Yeah,
Like, do public figures get to just go, nope, that time I was caught, with cocaine at a strip club. I'd like to be forgotten that. It's
Yeah.
like, I mean, it's still not a bad idea, and there are attempts being made to set standards for how personal information should be handled online. Like, I know the Netherlands I think it was the Netherlands or it was like Swiss. I think they classified personal information as a valuable commodity and set standards for how it has to be dealt with online.
Yeah.
Like, encryption and things like that.
Mhm.
And it's like we just don't have that. We don't have any standards, and there's nothing that says that privacy policies can't change and things like that. It's very much lawless, which is not necessarily inherently bad. It's just I think that there needs to be some sort of government standard here, because honestly, it's above most people to understand. Like, I can't claim to understand all the privacy policy stuff.
Oh yeah, I
And
mean,
I'm relatively well versed in technology, but I don't know what Facebook is allowed to do with my information because it's a legal document. And I mean, I am not a lawyer. I don't understand it. I can't understand the terms of service. It's above me.
And that's the issue. It's one of the underlying issues, I think, is it's so complicated. I mean, like, for example, the U.S. tax code is 75,000 pages.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the government. I always hear in the news people are like, senators, or Congress cannot seem to understand how people don't understand, like this tax code. I'm like, well, it's 75,000 pages.
It's also perspective. I mean, they're the ones who made it.
And even they don't seem to understand it
because they know the intent behind it.
Yeah, and
or
even
at least they think they do. But the problem is like, no matter how you phrase something, there's always going to be somebody who's somehow on the line.
Oh yeah.
Where they're sitting there, it's like, I don't know, I'm on both. And you're like, You know, I just think that the problem with taxes is, yeah, if they were simpler, I think you'd have a lot fewer mistakes in them. And I mean, but if you make them simpler, you can't necessarily get what you want out of it. I mean, there are benefits and drawbacks, but I think my problem with terms of service is that that's something you're asking people to agree to, but can you hold someone accountable? I know it's stupid. If they don't understand what they're agreeing to, does their agreement actually mean their consent? It's like, I don't think that's fair to say that when you agree to a terms of service, like if you've got if you're 13, you can enter these terms of service things. And I'm sorry, no 13-year-old understands what they're signing in, and that's somehow okay. They can data mine, I believe it's like over 13 is usually what you see.
Yeah,
It's like, but that's not, like, a 13-year-old does not understand the terms of service, let alone the impact of what they're doing. And I mean, isn't it pretty standard that you can't really put a minor into a contract? Like, you can't really enter contracts until 18, kind of.
It's weird, and
but I mean, you know what I mean. There's no parental support there. That a minor just signed away their personal information, or at least agreed to some terms of service that they probably shouldn't even be allowed to enter it. And it's like, I mean, I don't necessarily understand this stuff either. And I'm technically an adult. I mean, I don't think anyone does. I mean, talk to people who are like technically illiterate. They may not even know their data is being harvested. And I mean, that's the danger here, is there's no protection for people using it. I mean, there are large amounts of people, I'm sure, just don't even understand Facebook is taking information.
Oh yeah, and that's what's scary is that, I mean, I read or I'll try to find collateral, triple kill, one shot, nice. But I already have the achievement, so alright, like, it doesn't matter. But yeah, but that's the thing, is I always, you know, I don't always read the entire terms of service, but I will like go online and research, you know, because people do read them and post them. You know, it's relatively easy to find.
Yeah.
You know, because there are people out there that, you know, want to help you
yeah, but there's still no easy way of doing it.
Oh, and there is no easy way.
For me, usually I just assume that they have the rights to anything I do, and then that's usually how it works. But the problem is they can change them. And Facebook does this all the time. They change the terms of service after you've already accepted the first one. It's like there's nothing that stops them from, like, what Google did now is they bought Nest, and they bought another company that it lets you basically monitor doors and windows and whatever you want. Like, you put the sensor on it, it'll tell you if it's been opened or not and when it's been opened. So it's kind of a home security thing. But the issue now is Google's bought them, and they've put it under the Nest terms of service, which is you have to opt into it to have your data harvested. But what they've and that seems to be great and consumer friendly and all that, but then again, they could just be setting Nest and this up for a change in terms of service later on, where they just go and switch it to, yep, we own your data. And then you've already got users who have paid for this service and are using it, and then their choice is basically accept the terms of service or don't get to use this anymore.
Yeah, and that's
I mean, that's
danger
what it
of
is these things where it's a gradual, it really is a gradual degrading. I'm not saying all terms of service changes are bad, it's just that is something to think about. I mean, the concern with Google is they have, I mean, generally they're pretty good. They really don't try to give away information. I think they stand by it, but I mean, they're moving more towards an Apple-like setup where they own an entire ecosystem. Like, look at the way Android is moving. They're pushing for a more controlled user experience, whereas before you had all these fragmented versions, and now they're starting to converge it, and they're buying up all these home companies. They're making their own smart TV. It's like they're moving into hardware. And one of the things I've heard is that they made this comparison that the thing he's been saying for years is that Google is getting better at being Apple than Apple is getting better at being Google.
Yes.
It's basically Google is doing Google and extending into the Apple realm, which is where it's controlling the hardware and making its own ecosystem. And they're doing it pretty well. Like, look at Android. They're basically making it so they don't even have to construct the hardware. Somebody else can do it for them, but it's all going to be interconnected. And they've done it really well with services. Like, my Google account can be used basically everywhere, on everything. And I mean, there's something to be said for that, but then all of the power rests with Google. And there's no protection for me. Which, I mean, you know, that's kind of good, kind of bad.
Yeah, and it's
I
like,
mean, that's not to say they're not doing some innovative things. It's just, I don't know, kind of dangerous. And I mean, they did some cool stuff, but like now they're trying to convince people that using medical records, giving them access to medical records is a good thing. And it's like I'm not going to come out and say that it isn't, because I mean, I'm sure they claimed, it was like the CEO claimed, if Google had access to them, they could save, what was it, 100,000 lives per year or something like that. And it's like, I'm not saying that they're wrong. I mean, that might be true, but is there a privacy issue there? Is that okay? It's like, that's a pretty big leap to be making there. But then again, a lot of these other ones were pretty big leaps. I mean, people freaked out for Street View. People didn't like Street View, thinking it would be really bad. And, I mean, somewhat rightfully so. I mean, it's not all bad, but it's still like, it's gradually turning towards less and less privacy.
You have done well.
And I mean, I'm not so worried about privacy. I'd just like to know that there are some standards there. Because, I mean, a lot of this stuff is good. Like, Facebook is great for keeping in touch with people. And it's, I mean, I can see the benefit in it. And, like, I personally preferred Google+, which I'm sure is not that popular. But I like the way they handled privacy there. They were very clear about it. You could say who got to see what very specifically. And I wish Facebook did that. Like, you can do that. They have those features. It's just really hard to do. And that's kind of what annoys me a bit about Facebook, is that Google